There's a fundamental rule of law that protects you every single day, probably without you even realizing it. And believe it or not, it all started with a simple, quiet disagreement over a horse.
I mean, really think about that for a second. You get an email, a text message, some unsolicited offer. If you just ignore it, can someone really just assume you've agreed, that you're on the hook for it? It feels like a very modern question, but the answer goes way, way back, over 150 years ago.
So let's dive into the story. We're not talking about big corporations or dense legal contracts here. Nope. Our story boils down to three simple things: an uncle, his nephew, and a horse they were trying to make a deal on. What started as a straightforward family transaction was about to get, well, very complicated.
Okay, let's set the scene. The year is 1862. An uncle wants to buy a horse from his nephew. They've been riding back and forth, but they hit a snag haggling over the price. And then, the communication just stops. And that silence is where our whole legal puzzle really begins.
So the uncle, he's getting a little frustrated with all this back and forth. He decides to just cut to the chase and make one final, decisive offer. He sends a letter to his nephew, lays out his terms, and names his price. So far, everything seems pretty normal, right?
But here is the kicker. This is the one sentence that changed everything. In that letter, the uncle added this little line. He was essentially trying to force a deal by making his nephew's silence a form of acceptance. He was trying to create a contract out of thin air.
And what did the nephew do? Absolutely nothing. He didn't write back, he didn't send a telegram, he just went about his business, which left everyone with this huge, ambiguous question. Did his silence mean yes? And here's the crazy twist. In his own head, the nephew had actually decided to accept his uncle's offer. He even went and told the auctioneer who was running his farm sales, hey, don't sell that specific horse. And this is the critical part, he never actually told his uncle.
So this brings us right to the heart of the matter. Can one person, the one making the offer, just decide that the other person's silence equals agreement? Can you actually be forced into a contract just because you didn't explicitly say no?
Well, as you can probably guess, this whole mess ended up in court. In the now famous case of Feldhaus versus Bindley, a judge had to figure out who really owned that horse. And to do that, they first had to decide if a real, valid contract had ever been formed in the first place.
It really boiled down to a simple conflict of ideas. On one hand, you had the uncle, who was absolutely convinced that his nephew's silence sealed the deal. On the other hand, you had the court, which was about to offer a very, very different interpretation.
And the verdict? It was crystal clear. The court ruled that the nephew's silence did not count as acceptance. Since that acceptance was never actually communicated, no binding contract was ever formed, and that meant the uncle had zero legal claim to that horse.
And out of this simple case came this incredibly powerful legal principle that we all rely on to this day. You cannot be trapped in an agreement just because you didn't respond. For a deal to be a deal, acceptance has to be a clear positive action. A contract can't just be forced on you. So why are we talking about a horse sale from 1862? Why does it still matter so much? Because the idea it established is a cornerstone of fairness in pretty much every agreement we make today, from clicking I agree online to signing huge business deals. Think of this ruling as your personal shield. It's the reason a company can't just send you a product and say, hey, if you don't return it in 7 days, you've bought it. It's why ignoring an email for a new subscription service doesn't automatically sign you up and charge your card. It makes sure that a contract is a genuine meeting of the minds, not just a trap for someone who's busy or inattentive. It demands clarity, certainty, and active consent.
So, really, the next time you archive one of those unsolicited emails or just swipe away a notification without even thinking about it, take a second. Your right to stay silent, to not be bound by a deal you never actively agreed to, was fought for and cemented all because of one very important and ultimately unsold horse.